There's something that you mentioned that I think is kind of intriguing. Everyone seems to be looking for or seeking or longing for sometimes spending some of their life with a partner.
Yes.
And whether that's to find the first partner or to seek to find a second partner to do it in a better way or whatever. And a lot of times people say that they're seeking their partner by filling out a questionnaire or these days to go in a dating service, or friends and family are saying, well, you're like this, we found somebody compatible for you, or seeking someone with a sense of humor, or that they have same philosophy of life. You said something very intriguing that I think is really fundamental to where we'll go with some hope later, but you said that couples often unconsciously select a partner that isn't going to meet their needs and isn't able to because of some of their wounds and some of their past story. Can you talk about that? Because that sounds hopeless at first, but then you flipped that around a bit. But tell me about that.
Well, it's a real interesting phenomenon that people who fall in love actually fall in love with a person with whom they are not compatible. So I've come to the conclusion that incompatibility is the grounds of marriage, and compatibility is the basis for boredom. That the unconscious mind actually wants to be in tension and in contrast. Not necessarily conflict, but in contrast. But the contrast often leads to conflict. But there's an incompatibility built into the selection process. And the question is why? Why is that such an attractor in selection? And what appears to be the way we're set up is that we need to recreate in our adult life a scene within which we were wounded in our childhood in order to repair in adult life the wound that was created in childhood. Which means that you have to then fall in love with somebody who is similar to the people with whom you were wounded, so that your partner will be similar to your caretakers, and especially similar to the negative traits in your caretakers. Because it's those negative traits that are connected to your deprivations in childhood, which is another way of saying to your wounded in childhood. It's those negative traits that reenact or reset up at the emotional level the scene, the dynamics of childhood within which you were wounded. And it appears that the mind needs to have the context recreated in adulthood that was created in childhood in order to repair in adulthood what was wounded in childhood. Or to put it another way, which is a little more interesting, I only want what I need from somebody who can't give it to me. And that means the need that I have is from a caretaker who couldn't give it to me. So I want it from the person from whom it should have come.
Right.
But
you're acting it out with the person that you're living your life with now. Okay.
And the person, therefore, that I fall in love with has to be similar to my caretakers. I call them a parental surrogate, from whom I will want what I didn't get. The brain seems to not need the actual parent, but needs a facsimile of the parent. So if I have the parent facsimile with me, they're going to have the traits that will frustrate me. And so that recreates the situation of familiarity within which I should have gotten what I needed and didn't. So I recreate it so in adulthood so I can get it from a person similar to the person with whom I didn't get it.
On the surface, it sounds like, well, here we go again, and here we go again, and here we go again. And as a therapist, that sometimes is what you say, well, here you go again, going through that.
Right.
But you gave us some hope, and as you looked at this and began to understand it, you began to look at some of the things that might be helpful. And I heard some words today when I heard some things about connection. And I heard about relationships are the only healer. Can you talk about that and how a therapist plays a role or might play a role in changing the course of this?
Well, when I discovered in my research now around 30 years ago that everybody marries an incompatible person, and that the thing you need the most, you want it from a person who's least capable of giving it to you. I went into a professional depression. I thought, I said to Helen.
Whoops, this is the
I
dead
said to
end.
Helen, I don't, you know, I don't see it. I mean, I'm in a profession where there's no win here, because this thing looks like human beings are just set up for failed relationships. It's been true throughout history. History is made up of failed relationships. Marriages are failing. Half the marriages fail, and you know, it looks like more. And I said to her, I just think I'm going to quit. I mean, there's no point in being in a profession where you can't count on anybody getting well. And maybe I'll sell Shackley. I'm certainly not going to go back into psychotherapy. And I was in the shower one morning and taking this long shower, and water was hitting the back of my head here, which is actually one of my creative places in the hot shower. And suddenly I had a thought. It was like it had been funneled. And the thought was, I remember saying, it's amazing. It's incredible. It's perfect. We marry somebody who wants from us what we're least capable of giving them, but they want it from the part of us that was shut down by our own childhood, right, which we lost.
It's in us, is what you're saying, but it's shut down.
But it was shut down. Right. It's not missing. It's shut down. It's unavailable to consciousness, but it's not unavailable to, it's unconscious, but it's available to awareness. So when our partner says, would you do X, and you say, not on your life, that means you've identified your strongest growth point. That if you're willing to stretch into a behavior that your partner needs in order for them to feel met, and a need met for them that would heal them in their childhood, if you'll stretch into that behavior, you'll actually grow a part of yourself that got atrophied in your own childhood with your parents.
So if you witnessed
so it was like, my God.
So did you witness that after you got on the right street, sort of thing?
Yes.
You began to figure out some ways to be helpful.
And to help couples do that. And the first thing, though, was, you know, it was a cognitive insight. Well, cognitive emotional insight. It was something I understood, but then I felt strongly about it. So it is so counterintuitive that I didn't know how to help couples discover that, so I just told them. It was like a psychoeducational piece. Yes. And found that worked. That if I learn, I found that if a couple learned, you mean if I will actually do X, like be reliable,
which is the very thing your partner wants, you can't give.
That I'm not accustomed to doing, or be emotional, or be thoughtful, or develop my mind, that I get something out of that. And so I appealed to their selfishness.
Right.
Yes, you get a piece of you that you have never been in touch with before or had before. In other words, your responding to your partner will grow you. And so we called it growth and healing. Where I grow, you heal. Or how I grow heals you. And if you do that mutually, there were two things. Partners didn't want to sacrifice. It's like, I'm not going to become who I'm not in order for you to get what you need.
You change.
But if you discover, if I do, I'll become more of who I am, then the motivation is pretty selfish.